Hello, my name is Andrew Kinney. I'm a Social Security attorney at Hoglund Law Offices, headquartered in Roseville, Minnesota. I do hearings across the country. I help about 500 people or more per year with their Social Security hearings. I started doing this work in 1992. In this hearing, I want to describe when different medical problems become disabling. This is general advice. If you have specific advice or need an attorney, you can call our offices at 651-628-4001. Just make sure not to put personal information in the comment section because it won't be personal anymore. So I will go right to it. Here are the different medical problems of people that I help over the years, and here's when they are, or in my experience, may not be disabling. I'll start with low back problems. Social Security looks at low back problems. They look at treatment for that. Generally, we need imaging for low back problems to even get out the gate. X-rays are not nearly as good as MRIs. What Social Security is looking at is the level of treatment that you need. Certainly your age has a bearing on this. Age 50 or older can help. But ultimately, with any low back problems, Social Security is deciding if you've needed surgery or if you've had surgery, if it's helped. Social Security looks at whether there's any radiculopathy or leg problems, either one or both sides, and how you're limited sitting, standing, or walking. Your need to lay down or recline during the day is relevant in these hearings. Neck problems. Social Security looks toward, again, imaging studies of what would be wrong with your neck. They look to the past surgical history or injections or any other more conservative treatments. Ultimately here, neck problems may get bad enough that it impacts your ability to use your arms. There are nerves that radiate from your neck spinal cord through your arms. So Social Security looks at orthopedic examinations for numbness in fingers, numbness along the arms, trouble reaching forward because of neck issues. Neck issues become disabling when they would limit your ability to move your neck, cause perhaps significant migraines, or be part of that problem, or surgery did not work for your neck. So that's where some neck pain versus neck disability, that's where I notice the things cut one way or the other with that problem. Again, these are general. Shoulder problems. Social Security looks to see if there's an MRI of the shoulder, what the diagnosis is. If it's a rotator cuff that's been repaired, the question is was there failure of the surgery? What judges generally look at in these hearings is, are you able to reach forward? Overhead reaching isn't too limiting in terms of Social Security law, but reaching forward is. If you have trouble reaching forward, it's important your doctors understand that. It's also important to do physical therapy. Some physical therapy records will lay out how often you can reach forward with either or both arms. And related to this, there can be related neck cervical radiculopathy issues, neck nerve issues that go through the shoulder and down the arm. You can have both. So it's important to see specialists, orthopedic specialists in particular, for shoulder issues if you're claiming disability for one or both shoulders. Other problems include hip problems, same idea. MRIs are what would be expected, and whether you need conservative or surgical treatment or surgical intervention. Social Security will evaluate whether surgery has helped or not. They'll evaluate perhaps impingement problems from that hip joint down. So if you have trouble walking with that, Social Security evaluates that ability. Your age is a factor with that. You don't need to be 50, but if you are 50 or older and have these sorts of issues that cannot be corrected with medical treatment, that may impact your ability to return to your past work. But people can be approved based on hip problems before age 50. We also see instances where a hip replacement perhaps didn't work, or some other hip intervention. But again, it's important to see orthopedic specialists. Knee problems are similar to hip problems in that Social Security looks at, yet again, MRIs. They want to know what the diagnosis is, but also for knee problems in particular, they'll look for signs of swelling on physical exam and your medical treatment notes. Whether surgery has been offered, whether knee replacement's been offered is something that is brought up in hearings. Ultimately, if there's enough swelling in a knee and you need to elevate your knee because of that or stay off your feet, that relates to your ability to walk, of course, and stand. Those things will come up in a hearing. How your knee or knees limit you ultimately depends on your ability to bend your knee and whether doctors can help with your knees. Ankle or foot problems, what I see is trouble with weight bearing, ultimately can be disabling, and trouble with swelling, where perhaps you can't wear the shoes that you would normally wear. If you need to elevate your one or both feet in the air because of those issues, that can have a bearing on whether sit-down work is possible full-time in the Social Security hearing. Hand issues, Social Security, we evaluate what the diagnosis is. If it's something that can be corrected, at times, carpal tunnel syndrome, there can be release surgery that corrects the problem, versus trigger finger, which some surgeries help, some don't. Ultimately, Social Security is looking at your ability to handle objects either on an occasional basis, which means about a third of an 8-hour day, or a frequent basis, which is about 2/3 of a day in an 8-hour day. If someone's limited to occasional handling, perhaps even fingering, that can be disabling, can be, not a guarantee. Frequent handling and fingering generally isn't limiting enough under how Social Security's laws work. I help people with migraine issues. You should try to keep a migraine journal, I tell my clients, because a neurologist needs to understand the frequency and duration of the migraines, even if you feel awful when you're trying to do them. The symptoms you have leading to a migraine is an issue. The symptoms you have from migraines, how long it takes to recover from them. Do medications work? Do prophylactic medications help when you get the migraine? Social Security judges review medications that you prescribed. It's good to see a specialist for any medical problems you have, but with migraines, a neurologist is what I generally see Social Security requiring, and regular updated care and treatment intervention. Some people have Botox injections. In theory, Botox is only allowed when you have 15 or more migraines per month, but that in itself, as an argument, doesn't work for some reason. But continue getting treatment for the migraines as you see fit. If you give up on treatment, Social Security won't have any updated records about how often and frequent your migraines are. Ultimately, full-time work is disabling. You're disabled from full-time work, rather, if you would miss generally 2 or more days a month. So if you have 2 or more migraines per month, or roughly about 1 per week, the question is proving it and making sure your medical treatment notes lay that out. Some people have the physical problems of fibromyalgia. Make sure to have perhaps a rheumatologist confirm that with the 10-point exams. Some people have a remote diagnosis where it's so long ago that it's carried forward and no one's actually done what's called that 10-point exam. There are 18 10-points under the American College of Rheumatology. Make sure from time to time, perhaps every few years, that you have a full exam that confirms the diagnosis itself. The question is severity. Some people can work with fibromyalgia symptoms, other people cannot. Ultimately, your treatment for it, your descriptions to your doctors of your symptoms, and the physical exam results are key for fibromyalgia. But I usually don't, or at least a lot of times, I don't see fibromyalgia standing alone. But in any event, make sure to keep treating for fibromyalgia. Hopefully it gets better, but in any event, whether it's disabling or not comes down to if you have bad days on a weekly or monthly basis that would keep you from, would cause at least 2 or more abscesses per month. Full-time work is not possible, according to job experts in hearings, if you would miss, again, generally, job experts can vary, but if you miss more than 1 or perhaps 2 days a month for medical reasons, this would be one. MS, multiple sclerosis, usually they're different kinds. Usually the only problems I see is if someone is claiming disability before the symptoms have progressed. Neurological treatment is key. Ongoing imaging to determine the expansion of the lesions, the objective signs of MS, of course, confirmation of the diagnosis itself. Your doctors will take care of that. So if you have MS symptoms of optic neuritis, eye issues, or extreme fatigue, make sure your doctors are aware of these symptoms and how often they happen. These need to be documented. Again, coordination issues need to be documented on physical exam. If you were to miss more than 2 days a month of any full-time type work, that would be the standard. Social Security will look in your medical treatment notes to confirm it. Lupus, that once that's diagnosed, that has its own signs and symptoms that can be unique to you. Make sure your doctors, particularly a rheumatologist, confirms not only the diagnosis but the ongoing symptoms you have. And your symptoms would limit you in unique ways that would or would not allow for full-time work. If you would cause absences or physical limitations doing things, make sure doctors know and physical exams show them. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is another example of a particular medical issue that would be perhaps hard to diagnose at first. X-rays will show very little in my experience because this is joints are hypermobile, but there is pain with this. So it would be important to get testing and confirm the Ehlers-Danlos if you have it. But ultimately, it's important that doctors do exams and identify the problems you have with joints, some joints more than others. Some people have breathing issues, COPD. If breathalyzers or medications control it, then you may be able to work full time. The question is, if you're short of breath, even in a controlled environment, that's what Social Security will look at and determine if some work is possible. Again, a controlled environment, not going outside. But Social Security sometimes only gives environmental restrictions for that. It's important that doctors know if you're short of breath walking or going upstairs. With seizure disorders, those are always difficult to deal with. They need to be documented, again, in a journal like migraines. With seizure disorders, Social Security will look at the confirmation of the seizure disorder by EEG. They'll also look to see how often you have them, how often you're reporting them. Make sure, if you're not aware of how often they happen, that someone that is with you, that knows, goes with you to neurologist appointments. That's key. Social Security at times expects people to go to the emergency room for every seizure. That follow your own doctor's advice as to when you should go in. But documenting seizures, that should not be the way to do it. That's wrong. Documenting seizures would be through a neurologist, through, again, going through detailed journal of how often you have them, what kind you have, perhaps when others witnessing them. That's why it can be difficult. You need others' help, ideally, if possible. Heart issues, those issues can come and go. Some people can have congestive heart failure, go in the hospital, but come out and be relatively good, thankfully. But if you have ongoing shortness of breath or chest pain despite procedures, stenting procedures, or surgery, some other kind of surgery, make sure your cardiologists know and your other doctors know how often you have chest pain, where the chest pain is, and when it comes up. That will have a bearing on how Social Security limits you in your Social Security hearing. And then thinking of physical issues here, finally, I'm thinking of long COVID. I've had a number of people with those issues. They tend to be mixed in with some other medical issues that people have had before. For instance, rheumatoid arthritis. The long COVID or COVID makes that worse. Some people might have some injuries from the past, physical joint injuries, that gets worse. They might have fibromyalgia, that gets worse with long COVID. Make sure to get with specialists that treat that and can confirm that you are dealing with issues with that. There isn't always a one-to-one connection with exactly how COVID has interfered, but generally, if you have the right treatment, physical exams will show what's wrong with your energy levels or other problems that you have, inflammatory processes usually. Anyway, hopefully this was helpful going through a laundry list of physical problems. I'll go through mental health issues and what might be disabling in my next video. If this has been helpful, you can like the video. It might not be too entertaining, but the goal is that it's informational. I want people that I can't help everyone, and I want people that might hear this to understand what problems, how problems are bad enough to be disabling. Being diagnosed with a problem isn't enough. It's how you're limited from them. Thank you very much. Take care.